the course of humanity just by re-engaging with what actually we always had. You look at our ancestors; they all had this. We're relearning what we already knew. This isn't cutting edge technology. This is moving forward by moving back.
Yeah, amazing. But for me, because I've been traveling around and I haven't had a garden, and I'm currently at my son's, and I just love, as soon as I get there, I want to get out in the garden. They've got a big garden, but it's just connecting with nature, and that's so important. And I think, if you can get the children young to learn about plants and to plant a couple little plants and get them started, there's nothing for me in being in nature and picking up all the leaves and it's like when I go out picking herbs, I like to get nettle tea and that. I'm always snipping away and going, I ask permission first and then I say thank you. Some people say you're nuts, but I think, well, it's there, and I just like to give thanks for what I'm taking.
Well, it's funny you should say about people thinking you're nuts. When I first started gardening for privately for individuals, I just went in as a standard gardener. I used to work as people do. I go in now. The first thing that a new client sees of me is me going around with dowsing rods, asking permission to be there, hoping it's the right place to be. I mean, the amount of reverence that goes into the equation in comparison to the way I was is extraordinary. And it's because we're on that journey. We're understanding that actually we're moving into a realm that, much as we know a little bit about man, we don't know anything about it. We go eyes wide open, hoping that we begin to understand more. And we only understand more by being really, really respectful of what we see in front of us. So, it's important that you ask, because why wouldn't you? These are living, vibrant, spiritual beings. Do ask.
Yeah, and especially when you're chopping things back. It's honouring the spirit of the tree or whatever, and just saying, look, I'm going to cut you back, I'm going to trim you, and sometimes people just chop away, and I'm horrified. I think, oh my God. But anyway.
Yeah, but this is part of plant understanding. Is it's perfectly okay to prune a plant and those things because they've got the ability to grow, to flourish from that cut point and all the rest of it. That is a given. What isn't a given is, are you allowed to do it? Is it okay to do it? Please, can I do this? I am trying to do this for your well-being and mine. Once you've made that relationship, the plant is so willing. I've pruned very, very big trees, and I've been very high up in very big trees. That tree could spit me out at any moment. It's not a given that I'm not going to die, because I don't tie myself in or any of those things, rarely anyway. So I'm in a place of entire trust. So therefore, why wouldn't I be then going, is it all right? Because I'm relying on you to keep me safe. So it's really, and we are relying on nature to keep us safe. This is the thing, isn't it? Not just in a small way in gardening. Every breath we take, we're relying on nature to keep us safe.
That's right.
And so, we could have 10 programs about microbes. But one of the things I really want to say about gardening and about interaction with gardening, especially with about plants, is eat the plants. Ask, take a leaf off a tree. Obviously make sure you know what trees, do your research. But if it's a tree that you can eat, break off a leaf and eat it, because what will then happen is you're incorporating the microbes into your stomach brain. From that point on, you are then absolutely associate with nature. So, you could, I'm not saying, make your whole diet a raw food diet. That doesn't matter. You don't need to do that, because the amount of microbes on one leaf will change your stomach flora for days. So, these are really important ways that we can start to change our stomach flora, to start to change the microbes, which are our real driver after all. Every thought we have goes through whatever the microbes are collectively communicating to us. These are really fundamental things. And if we can just start to incorporate bits of that into our day-to-day, you watch the psychological change in that. It's profound. You know, little, as I say, you know, I was talking to Jeff before we started about the big hitters. There's big hitters in the plant world, you know, ayahuasca and psilocybin. You know, if we want to really change psychologically, you know, that is certainly a path. But it's worth remembering that all plants do this. You know, there are no exceptions. Every single plant has its message, has its different relationship. My conversation with you, Andrena, we are two individuals, the like of which doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. We are entirely unique. That is the same for the whole of the plant kingdom. They are all entirely unique. Each plant in the same variety is unique. That's why I can't say to you, this plant does this or that plant does that, because there are no rules. They all do lots of things. And it's for us to be intuitive about whether those things are right for us. And that intuition is a lifelong process, isn't it? So shut me up, by the way. You know, I can talk forever. You know, you can really interrupt. It's fine.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. But no, it's just amazing because being a forest, hello, I just love trees. I love nature. And there's a place up around here, you might have been, it called Burnham Beaches.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh my God, I went there last time I was up here. It's absolutely stunning. And the ancient trees there, oh my God, I had some lovely pictures of the energy around the really elder trees. But but no, you've got so much wisdom. And I know you were going to take us through an exercise to communicate more with nature, because I would love to open up my abilities even more to be more in tune with plants and trees. And I'm reading a lovely book at the moment, I haven't got it by the side of me, about communicating with trees and different trees around Glastonbury and Avebury where they've given you messages. And so I've been reading that, and that's really amazing. So it says what to do. So I sit with a tree now and I introduce myself, and and I do, I do all these odd things, but I've gone past worrying anymore. I think, well, this is me. This is who I am. I love nature. I talk to the plants. I talk to the birds. I talk to the animals. So it is opening our awareness even more. Like, and I love to hug a tree. But I tell you what really fascinates me at the moment is pictures of trees that I've taken, but the different barks. I just love some of the shapes of the barks. They're just so amazing. That's another thing. It really fascinates me at the moment. So
yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
sorry.
I mean, just talking to tree bark, it's very interesting that we've got. Obviously, you've got the eucalyptus in Australia, which sheds. This is a really significant part of a tree's life. Not all trees shed their bark in quite that way. The one in London we have is the London plane, which does a similar thing. If you're familiar with the London plane, it's got that very camouflaged mottled trunk where bits of it fall away all the time, so it grows and falls away. It's not one continuous body. It's got various different age. And I was reading recently, somebody said how old are London planes, or how long do London planes live for? And the answer was, we don't know, because we've never actually we've no record of one actually dying of old age.
Amazing.
Wow. Thanks for that. So astonishing that plants that can shed their own bark, that are renewing themselves every year. They brought the London planes in because the smog in Victorian London was so bad that they needed tree. If a tree couldn't shed its bark, it would just be black. It would just be completely covered in soot. So a London plane was great because it always looked like it was just recently planted. So that was why they used them in cities as much as they did, and they survive. The ones in Berkeley Square are just under 300 years old. We are working with time scales that we can hardly conceive of. If you take a yew tree, for example, so a yew tree, you see a yew tree, you see it, we've got yew trees here that are dated, 2,500, 3,000 years old. That's the actual tree itself. But if you look around that yew tree, you'll see that there's a whole circle of yew trees, and that circle, yew trees are stoloniferous. That means that they grow up from the roots. So the roots grow down, and then they come up to the ground, and a new tree will start from where that root has reached the sunlight. So when the main tree dies, that ring of trees will carry on. And it's the same tree, it's the same understanding, it's the same information. So although that main body of tree after 3,000-4,000 years has died off, it's left itself in the ground. In actuality, this isn't a seed falling off the tree and growing separately with a separate identity. This is the same identity. Therefore, these trees are eternal. They are eternal. They have been here forever. They will be here forever. So coming to your communication with trees, well, you know, if you want to pick up the wisdom of something, go and sit with something that's been here forever, because it has got all the information of eternity. Thank you for that. You know, so let's tap into that. So yeah, we will talk a little bit, just very briefly, about. We had a chat, Andrena, the other day about how, you know, sometimes you feel like you want to be hearing voices, you want to be actually physically communicating with a tree. There is no doubt whatsoever that this is a real experience, that we can actually do that. But if that doesn't happen, if we don't have that, then it's really worth getting into certain simple preparations with tree meditating, because have a think about it. You know, what is stopping us being able to directly communicate with everything around us? The answer clearly is us, isn't it? You know, we are stopping us from doing that. So how can we stop us from stopping us is really the question. So the bit that's stopping us is our internal dialogue. Our internal dialogue is a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? I mean, it's so helpful on so many levels and such an absolute pain on others, because it doesn't necessarily do what we want. It does what it wants pretty much all the time. And, you know, Ram Dass talks about, you know, a lifelong journey in reining in the internal dialogue. It's pretty much it, isn't it? So in meditation, one of the things that I like to do is to separate my internal dialogue from the spirit. So I recognize that my internal dialogue will rattle along pretty much, you know, whether I want it to stop or not. But what I can do is I can compartmentalize it. I can say, all right, well, you have this bit of time, but I'm giving this bit of time up to the spirit. And a lovely exercise in this is I first read about this with Fool's Crow. Fool's Crow was the he was a Native American. He was 104 when he died or something. So he'd seen the huge change in his tribe's life. But the one thing that he's talked about was how everyone in the tribe would get into fourfold breath. So fourfold breath is pendulum breath. So if you imagine a pendulum swinging, and you breathe in for 4, and you hold for 4, and breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. The breaths is the humanity, is the human, is my internal dialogue, is my faults and failings. But the pauses is letting the spirit in. So you've given half yourself up to the spirit. You've accepted that, yeah, I'm here physically, I'm here, but half of me is something else, is spirit, is something else. You know, we can all put our term on that, but whatever that something else is external from us almost. That it is influenced by something that is external from us. So if we want to be influenced by the spirit of a tree, we have to tap into what is external from us. What is our spiritual nature? And then if we're giving half of that to the tree, and then our internal dialogue is dealing with the rest, then we can rest assured that while we're sitting with that tree, even if we are not physically experiencing that download, even if we are too thick-skinned, or just in my case, too thick to really get the full message, that message is still coming through. It is still happening because you have allowed that. You have opened that space. You have accepted, you know, that half of your experience will be that. And then bit by bit, all of you becomes that experience. But it's really, really healthy to separate that. Fourfold breath has got me out of so many scrapes. I can't tell you, you know, because in a tight spot, it's a magical thing. You know, I mean, I won't go into those scrapes right now, but you know when you're really up against it. I'll give you a quick example. I won't go into the details of why, but at gunpoint at a border in Syria, where I really thought I wasn't going to make the next 5 minutes, the one thing I did a lot of was fourfold breathing. And, it did sort of calm the situation down, but yeah, so I digress. But with tree
No,
meditation,
that's fine.
fourfold breathing is spectacular.
Yeah, I have done that at times when I can't sleep or different things. You do the counting and it just slows you down, and then and yeah, like you say, it connects you, takes you into that deeper space, and you're more relaxed. So yeah, I am aware of that. So are you going to do a little exercise with us all?
I was thinking about it. I mean, I did mention it to Jeff earlier on, and he did give me a wry smile. Meditation on the radio, it's not great radio, really. So,
Yeah.
so I don't think we'll do that. But what I think we could do is just for a moment think about rather than do an exercise, I'll give you an example. So when on the plains of America, people would go hunting buffalo. That was a really big deal because people would be, again, like I was saying about climbing, dangerous, really hugely dangerous scenario. So for 2 or 3 days, everyone would get into fourfold breath. And it wasn't just about sitting around getting into fourfold breath. Everyone would get into synchronized breathing. And the reason for that was so that when the people who were actually going out and taking the risk were out taking the risk, the responsibility of that risk was shared. The whole thing was about like-mindedness, not letting your internal dialogue disrupt an important event. We had a really important event last night. We honoured our ancestors at Abbey House last night. And so we had a very shamanic circle, and then we had a sharing. I am still recovering from that sharing. It was as deeply profound as any experience that I've had for many, many years, because I think we've all, as you go through life, people leave, and I've had very, very close, very powerful people leave. They weren't left last night. They were absolutely with us, and part of that is because in these meditations, in this breath, in this world, nothing leaves. Actually, this is another part of the plant spirit medicine understanding, is that by giving everything up to the microbial action, the understanding that the fungi of honey fungus running for 200 square miles through a Canadian rainforest is all interactive. It's all dealt with by the microbes of the fungus who are dictating the terms of which trees live or die, which trees are fed and which trees have already had enough. Nothing exists in inertia. Everything's connected. So when we start connecting human beings up, when we start recognizing that by things like fourfold breathing, which, as I say, nothing's new. This has been done on the plains of America for 10,000 years, for goodness sake. I'm not pretending that this is suddenly some new great understanding.
No.
This is just being real about how we can reconnect. And as I say, last night's ceremony was about sharing the responsibility of our loved ones' loss, allowing those ancestors in their next realm to reconnect via us. So all of those friends on the other realms were being friends with us on this realm. Magic, absolutely magic. So, we're saying about dreaming the new dream. There it is. We have still got all the information that we need to rebuild this situation in the most loving and wonderful way. And we are, if tree spirits and tree nature help us with that, then that speeds the process up no end. There's a lovely abbey. We were right. See where the abbey is there in that photograph. We were where that tree is at the far end. We were right by that wall last night doing the ceremony. So, the high altar. So the high altar is where you've got you've got the tall arch. If you walk through, thank you, Jeff. So if you walk through that arch, you come to the high altar. Now, the high altar is the great crossing point of the Michael and the Mary lines. So from those lines, instantaneously and rapidly round the planet, those lines run very, very powerful positive energies. And we were right on those lines last night with our ancestors, worshipping the wonder of Glastonbury and its immense, constant power and love. They call it the heart chakra. Well, what a lovely thing to call anything, So yeah.
Definitely. Well, I know I was a couple of weeks ago with you guys, and that was the first time I'd gone round into the front of the abbey, and like there was a tree there that just like, oh my god, when you went round, it just took your breath away. It was magnificent, and I did want to go back and connect with that tree, but anyway, it didn't happen. But I know when I stood on there looking down through the abbey and being on the ley lines, but I know what a powerful evening, and watching the sunset go right down all the way through was just amazing. So yeah, that would have been magical last night.
What a privilege, it is that we have, access to these sites. I mean, we're doing a lot of work there, and it's lovely. That tree is an Atlantic cedar.
Yeah. Because how old is it? Do you know what sort?
Well, I would think it would be maybe so the big cedar avenue that was planted just outside Glastonbury, those cedars are they were planted in 1805, I believe. So that would make our cedar there of a maybe slightly less an age. I would say maybe 1850s perhaps. But you're still talking about a considerably old tree. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, really lovely.
Yeah. Oh wow, amazing! Right, so I know you like when we talked about meditation, and you mentioned about you were going to play something with your guitar. Has that gone out the window now?
I'd love to, but if we do that, I won't do it for very long. But I think what would be nice is if we can visualize the fourfold breath as we do it. So if anyone who's listening to this, if you just want to sit quietly, because this is a piece of meditative music, and what we can do is we can use that idea that as I start playing, if you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and just visualize that as you breathe, you are absolutely as entirely human as you can be. But as you come to the pauses, you are creating a gap between worlds. That pause is the gap between worlds. As a pendulum sits before it swings back, in that inertia, the spirit is allowed to transcend in those gaps, that we are opening up that space. And in that space, we can settle, and the spirit can do what it does, which is run its energy through us, cleanse us. How energy flows in the universe is purely and simply dictated to by the spirit. I've studied Aikido for years, and in Aikido we talk about ki, and we talk about how ki flows through us and how we can use ki. In Aikido, we use ki to create conflict resolution. So everything about Aikido is about allowing energy to flow through us and putting everything to rest. Putting everything at peace. So even if somebody's attacking you or being violent or being verbally abusive, that we turn that absolutely full circle into peace and love. Because Osensi's understanding when he created Aikido was he could bring about world peace through Aikido. I still believe him. I'm his student. That is my mission. So we are very much in that realm. And again, get me on and talk about Aikido for 3 days. But Osensi was one of the most spiritual men in Japan. Shunned the war, moved his people north. He understood that the conflict that was raging could only be settled by dealing with your own conflict. Martial arts self-defense, as he said, defense against yourself. All this stuff about it being external from you, forget that. We're doing it to allow the spirit to come through us and to take away, run that energy out through us, so we're not conflicting anymore, so that we're living in peace. But that peace can only be here. Sorry?
That is the key to getting everybody more in balance, in harmony within themselves. And then when you are centered, grounded, and at peace, it reflects out, because, with all the different scenarios that have been going on, it's triggered people's buttons on so many levels. And, and if we can all just think, well, this is all what's happened, and it's a huge learning curve for all of us. But if we can come back to center, and like you say, just doing the fourfold breath, bring ourselves back in, bring that peaceful element within, we can ripple that out around the planet.
Yeah, I love what Jeff said earlier on. There is a bigger picture going on. There's lots of polarity. People being pulled into conversations and situations about, world situations. Well, actually, they're immaterial, really. The conflict is still within, isn't it? So let's deal with that. Let's keep going inward. Because then the external picture matters little. It doesn't actually exist on some level. It is a construct. We can avoid it, because actually the work we need to do is internal, not external. We can worry all we like about what the world's doing, but actually we can really change it by worrying about what we're doing.
Exactly.
That's the thing, isn't it? So no, thanks, Jeff, for that. I appreciated what you were saying earlier about that stuff. Yeah. Guitar.
Yeah. So do you want to share a bit about how, music has taken over, and, because are you part of a band? I know I haven't looked at your music, Vic. I was only interested in your nature.
Lots of bands. I mean, if I'm allowed to shamelessly name drop, I played with a guy called Jeffrey Pierce, who was in the Gun Club back in the punk days. So we did a bit of that. And in more recent times, I've been playing with various different friends in Glastonbury. That photograph was at the anti-fracking gigs that we put on. So we interacted with Standing Rock at that particular concert. All sorts of people. Judge Smith from the Van de Graaff Generator was there, and Pock, who's our lovely bard in Glastonbury, amazing musician, incredible poet, about as far out as any human being possibly get. But amazing with it, isn't he? I mean, what a talent that guy is. So yeah, Glastonbury is, running through music. It's incredible here. So I play with lots of different people. I'm in the middle of. I mentioned Artem Petrosian earlier on. Hopefully, Jeff, I'm going to get some music to Jeff, so he can explore some of the Armenian music that I'm playing. Obviously, my grandfather was Armenian and escaped the genocide in the start of the 20th century. So there's Armenian threads that run through what I do, and I'm just finishing an album which is all about my grandfather's journey from Armenia. I might actually even play a little bit of that in a second, so you can.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, let's play that. So yeah, busy musically. It's a hobby and a passion, and something that brings me closer to the spirit as well.
Amazing.
The tour. There we are. Look. Lovely. Right. I'll play a little bit of the start of the Armenian album, and if we can just maybe just get into this nice breathing and have a look at some photographs. Yeah.
Oh, that was lovely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, yeah, and looking
Jeff,
at some of those pictures, how much Glastonbury has changed, the shops change, and there's always change happening all the time, eh?
it's yeah, there's a flow to it, isn't there, Andrena? You know,
Oh,
it's you know, it's I think when I first encountered Glastonbury, it felt very flaky. It felt I don't know what it felt like. Now that I've lived here for a while, I recognise that on the surface it may seem that, but it is far from that. You know,
mm,
it's a deeply intuitive place, and you know, people who are drawn here for a
oh,
very particular purpose.
mm,
We've been
mm.
discussing a lot about the Abbot Whiting and about what happened with Henry VIII. That's very current topic of conversation. I would really ask for any listeners to find the petition that we are getting together in Glastonbury and sign it for next year is the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and we are asking that Richard Whiting is pardoned. The abbot is still seen as being a criminal and was executed as such. He was far from that. He was our great spiritual avatar, who you know, is still thoroughly respected and loved here. So we are still campaigning on his behalf 500 years later, and one
Mm.
day he will be honoured in the way that he should be honoured.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Wow. I
Oh,
mean,
so Sammy's helped me here actually. The petition is on change.org. It's very
right.
important because if we get enough signatures, they have to take this into account. And if they do take it into account, it's almost certain that a major change will be made in the understanding of Glastonbury and what happened with the dissolution of the monastery. It's very important.
No, we can put that in a link and we can share that
Please,
later.
that would be lovely.
Yeah,
This isn't
yeah,
my campaign, by the way. This is very great people in Glastonbury who are doing
yeah.
this, but
No,
I'm sharing on their
I
I'm
saw the
sharing on their
posters.
behalf. Sorry.
Mm. I saw the posters when I was back in Glastonbury, and like you say, Glastonbury calls you. You know, people think, oh, it's airy fairy, and yeah, you know, you got your airy fairies going around, and but you know, Glastonbury is lively and it does draw you in, and it draws people in from all around the world. I mean, I worked in the Chalice Well Gardens, or you know, 2007, 2008 as a volunteer, and I just loved it. And I met all sorts of people from all around the world, you know, sharing lovely stories, and you know, just walking into the gardens took their breath away. And then you've got the two ancient yew trees there as you go in, haven't you? But
Absolutely.
talking of yew trees, there is one. I can't remember the name of the place. The other side of Glastonbury, there's a really
The Compton Dundon Yew.
yeah. It's but
It is on
that's
one of the pictures, actually. I think. Yeah, you might.
that's really ancient, isn't it? That one. I mean, I think it's
Yeah,
one of the oldest ones.
that is. Yeah, that's getting now. That's getting up to 2,000 years old. That tree.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
just
with your
remarkable.
work now, with your gardening, whereabouts are you doing your gardening work? Are you self-employed and you go around doing different people's gardens, or you know, where are you with all of this at the moment?
Yeah, I am busy blasting a wildlife corridor, a pesticide-free zone right the way across Somerset. If you if you want to join me, just give me a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you know, my big sort of campaign, if you like, is to make people understand that no pesticide, nothing you kill in a garden is a good move. Nothing.
No,
You know, there
no.
is no need to worry unduly about pests and diseases. All you have to find is a balance. There is no garden that shouldn't thrive without the use of any pesticides. Don't use them. don't kill things. Keep things live. Because, people go on. People go on in this country. We used to have 44 million hedgehogs. We're down to 8 million. And the rhetoric, the world conversation is, it's because we put up a lot of fences. And, it must be the badgers that are eating the hedge. Oh, for goodness sake. Just stop killing stop killing the slugs, because slugs is what they eat. And stop using pesticides, because that's what kills things. Really, are we that childish that we can't see that? So, let's just stop doing that. If we stop doing it in the gardens, okay, the farmers are still going to do what they do, but we can blast a wildlife corridor very significantly through, England, on the planet, just by making sure our own individual gardens are pesticide free. A little bit like we said about changing ourselves, changing internally, just change the environment around you. Make sure that you are not, you're bringing everything in. People say to me about, what do you do as a gardener? I open up the environment to as much diversity as I possibly can, in all ways, even things that may seem like they're detrimental. No, they're not. Sparrows, the depopulation of sparrows in London. Why did that happen? Well, any gardener worth their salt knows why it happened. Although a sparrow will eat anything you throw out for it, it only feeds its young regurgitated greenfly. So if he killed off all the greenfly with pesticides, then you lose your sparrows. This is simple stuff, and we as gardeners know about this stuff instinctively, intrinsically. We've been yelling this from the rooftops for years. I'm still waiting for the Guardian to put this on a page, because they won't.
No,
I wonder why. But we can have this communication ourselves, thanks to lovely radio stations like this, who are recognizing that the way forward is to make sure that, as individuals, we are being responsible. And these small changes are huge changes. I took on a village just outside of Yeovil, maybe 25 years ago. I don't think there were hardly any organic gardeners there at the time. You go to that village now, because one by one I took over most of those gardens. And then when people used to ask me, would you come round and prune it? I don't want you to garden with me, but come round and prune a shrub. And I say, I'll come round and prune a shrub as long as you guarantee me that you never use a pesticide in your garden again, ever.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why is that? And I said, well, that robin that's just flown with me from that garden to have a look at me working in your garden, trust me with where I work, trust me with the environment that it is in, and it's only flown from over there. Yeah. So I cannot be responsible for my friends, these birds, to follow me into a death zone. No, I'm not having it, So it's a bit like that, it's a one-man, crusade.
Yeah.
It's
and I must admit, I wouldn't use chemicals in the garden, and I don't use, very rare if I use chemical products. I like to mix essential oils and make my own concoctions and bathroom sprays and all of that, because, all these different sprays, like I can go somewhere and I'm like, the smell just like, it just overwhelms you. But I know somebody was saying about what was the best way to get rid of dandelions. And I said, hot boiling water, and they wanted to know what sprays. And it's simple. You just use boiling water, rather than spraying something, or get down and do a bit of digging, pull them out the ground.
But most important thing to do with dandelions is lift them carefully, ask them nicely, put them in your juicer and eat them. They are they are an absolute superfood. So all of these, I'll give you a really great example of this. One of the plants we've got here is ground elder. Ground elder was brought by the Romans because the Romans suffered a lot with gout. The reason they suffered a lot with gout was because they drank a lot of red wine, and gout, what it does, it crystallizes the cells, basically. So crystallization of the joints and cells, all of the arthritic problems, all of the dehydration of the cells brought about by the cell's inability to assimilate water is crucial to our understanding of what brings about joint pain and all that sort of stuff. So the Romans knew this. They brought ground elder. They planted it all the way along every road in England. So as they were marching along, as soon as they'd stop and sit down, they'd graze on the ground elder. Now, all these years on, ground elder is one of the worst pests going in the gardens. It's really difficult to shift. It goes through all the borders. It's a big problem, except for me, because I think it's one of the most fantastic plants going. You do have to, you don't want it running right the way through your garden, don't get me wrong. But ground elder, what a fantastic plant. What an absolutely incredible plant, especially for modern human beings, a lot of whom are suffering from joint pains, all of that sort of stuff. So, study your herbs, get to know these things, cleavers, nettles, dandelions, graze on them, eat bits of them, use the microbes. These are vitally important plants. So, I can't speak for Australia. I don't really know what your plants are. I don't expect they're too different. I should imagine you've got all the same plants there as you have here. But study them, get to know them, because they're our friends. They are here to really help us stay well, stay healthy,
And that's important.
Dandelion's great, great diuretic, fantastic for all the internal organs, brilliant for the lymphatic system, amazing plant, really.
Yeah, I'm sort of getting more and more into the herbs, and I have picked up some lovely secondhand herb books that have been new. So I want to sort of remember a lot of these things, if you like. But I know, because I don't think they have dandelions in Australia, I can't remember. But I was given some by a friend to eat, and she'd had them all in a little bag, and then we had them in our juice, and it was lovely. I mean, I love nettle juice, but I've certainly gone on to the dandelion, so I'm slowly getting into this more and more. But yes, so it's amazing for your body, like you say.
I was working recently. I wasn't actually doing gardening. I was helping somebody doing a bit of building work. And the lady of the house said, my husband suffers from, he can't come down at the moment. He's suffering terribly. He's got this problem and that kind of, various different things I won't go into. And I said to the lady, I said, come and have a walk around your garden. And every single herb that man needed for his well-being was within 100 yards of his bed. What is really significant is the plants come to us. It's really, really staggering. I know we're getting into the realms of quite high spiritual evaluations here, but I am not kidding. Your well-being is almost within arm's reach. If you know your plants, they are there waiting to help. It's extraordinary. And what is more, that lady did go and pick those herbs, did juice up quite a lot of them, and there were significant changes in the health situation. So, these things are, who needs doctors when you've got every bit of medicine out? I worked in the physics garden, I mentioned earlier. Chelsea Physics Garden, established in the 1700s, was all they had as medicine. There wasn't any other medicine. There was only plants. It was only relatively recent times that we've ditched the idea that the plants are our medicine. As I say, the way forward is the way back. We have to go back to this understanding, this knowledge. Who wants pharmaceuticals? When you can have the real thing. Doesn't make any sense. Last time I went to the doctor, many years ago, he said to me, Dave, we haven't seen you for a while. I said, no, I've been ill. Sorry, that was
love it.
That was the great Tommy Cooper joke. I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, we're with you on that one, I can tell you.
I wish you didn't die on stage and get pulled off the curtain.
Well, yeah, it didn't necessarily entirely apply to poor Tommy, did it? But what a funny man. We used to go and see him as kids. He'd walk out on stage and he'd do a full act without actually opening his mouth. You'd be absolutely on the floor before he'd actually bother to say anything. It's genius. Very funny.
Yeah, they're a little kept, didn't he?
I just had a message because I just could hear the phone going, and My sister shared that France has overturned the ban on hunting songbirds. Over 100,000 wild birds are being sacrificed for politics. I don't know any more about that, but
well, significantly, you know, all our lovely birds from this country. So you take the swift, the house martin, and the swallow, all fly from England right the way across Europe, down through Africa, all the way to the Cape. They take on, you know, I think it's something like 10,500 mile flight, virtually without stopping. Nearly all the swifts are virtually on the wing the whole time. They all fly through the south of France, and half of them get picked off by people who want to shoot them on the way through. You know, stop doing that.
yeah.
Don't do that anymore. It's you know, you're more grown up than that. You know, let's be adult here. You know.
Ah, wow, amazing. Well, have you written a book or anything, sharing your stories, or, you know, putting together about the plants and?
I haven't. No, I am though in the process of the album that I'm writing about my grandfather's journey is also is a small book. So it's being illustrated by a lovely girl Jeanette in America. All the poetry is being done by our fabulous word spinner poet, who is honestly, if you can find word spinner, Roger Iredale. Utterly remarkable poet, you know, in the school, published along with Ted Hughes and the great poets, amazing. So I'm privileged to have one of the great English poets writing that for me. So I've got the wonderful Arsene Petrosian, one of the foremost international duduk players, probably the best duduk player of his generation, playing duduk on it for me. So I'm extremely privileged to have that coming out next year. So yeah, that's something that I want to do. Can I just actually say, if you want to explore Roger Iredale's poetry, rogeriredale.co.uk. Sorry, roger-iredale.co.uk. He is, you know, worth the admission fee alone. Fabulous.
All right, okay. Food for thought. Because we're all, excuse me, we're always looking for people that are dreaming the new dream, that have got something to share, that are helping humanity. So if anybody knows of anybody else that would like to come on the show, please get in touch with us. But you've been an absolute gem.
As are you, Andrena. Thank you so much for asking me. I think when you asked me, you were probably thinking to yourself, well, you know, Dave's quite quiet, really. I wonder if he's really, you know, I wonder. You had no idea, did you?
Yeah, but it was just, I knew I had to get in touch with you, and I didn't know what you did. I've always spoke to you, but I just intuitively was guided to connect with you. And I think Samia said that, you know, I can slot you in, and I said, oh no, you know, I'd like him on the show, not as when somebody drops out or anything. So thank you for taking your time to share all your amazing stories. And I love what you're doing for nature. It's absolutely fantastic. And hopefully people will go away with rethinking about using any pesticides in the garden for, you know, because I know lots of my friends and family, they've all got like hedgehogs in the garden, and especially my niece Nikki, she's got different things to encourage the hedgehogs, and she's got bird feeders, and she's got all the hedge sparrows coming in, and it's just lovely to watch. So it's just magic.
Couple of quick things, Andrena. Firstly, any gardeners out there want any gardening information, buy books prior to 1930. You know, buy the books that tell you the real story. You know, so, you know, before pesticides, we knew all about this stuff. We knew all about companion gardening. We knew Gertrude Frank's companion gardening book, just to stick with that. You did promise me that we could go full circle. Can I tell you the last bit?
So going full circle, would you like to finish off?
So as a child, spinning around in the garden, looking up at the trees, looking up at the owls, Maybe 5 years ago, I went on a course in Brighton, and as part of this course, there was a guided meditation, and I lay down in this room, and the person took me on a guided meditation, and they said, yeah, you can become a bird. So I lay there, and I sort of, got into the idea that I was a bird, and I'm not very good at guided meditations. I've normally drifted off by now. I'm normally in my own world, not really paying much attention, but I was really in this one. And so I became this bird, and this bird took off, and I thought, wow, I'm actually experiencing this. This is really something, And this bird flew and flew, and I flew with it, and I was looking over the landscape, and the guided meditation was gone, and I was this bird. I was away. And this bird settled in a tree, and the bird looked down, and I looked down at my own self in the garden from the tree of my childhood.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can't recreate that, can you? That's magic.
Yeah, it was pure magic. Absolutely.
Right, do you want to speak, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I know. The thing that was we haven't spoken about was the actual the diva, or the elemental that sticks with that particular flower or that particular tree. You actually had that experience of working actually with the diva kingdom?
I think that we spoke quite a lot about the big plant spirit medicine plants, and I think that I in my formative years experienced most of those medicine plants. So they give you a certain clarity because there's a huge amount of power there, and it's a little bit like, how could you use the analogy? It's a little bit like when you come face to face with somebody famous, if you like, so you've met people in the world, and then you come across, what's a good example of me? I met Bob Geldof at the time when he was doing Live Aid. So Bob Geldof at the moment when he was doing Live Aid, he was spun out. He was a trip, you know what I mean? Because he's suddenly on the world stage, and I was in a lift at the BBC with him, and he turns around and starts chatting with me, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was in the presence of somebody who was larger than life in that moment. And some plants do that. Some plants will manifest themselves as the vast spirit that they are. Does that happen all the time? No, not really. And some plants are very like human beings. Some plants are shy and retiring. Some plants are very secretive. These conditions are very human-like in a sense. My favorite plant that's got possibly the most powerful spirit is one of the very smallest, and that is the night-scented stock. Night-scented stock's a tiny little insignificant flower that you would miss every time you went into a garden, and yet dominates in the evening with its scent. Absolutely powerful. So you can sit with the scent of a plant and get the majesty of it, and see the aura of it, and eventually recognize the manifestation of feminine of night-scented stock is sublime. So I would answer you, Jeff, in saying yes and no. These things are fleeting glimpses for me. I'm sure there are people who are seeing the full picture all the time, but not for me. I wait for the fleeting glimpses and appreciate them when I get them, very much.
Right. So have you come across the pan energy in that respect as well?
Well, I think so. I think I know what you're referring to. It's interesting that when you say that, the person that brings that most to mind, we are going into the bardic understanding of something here as well. And Pock, who we've mentioned before, our great bard here, is so imbued with those ethereal understandings that he can take you very clearly into that realm and Sean, I don't know, Andrena, if you know Sean Kerwin. Have you met Sean?
Don't think so.
So we have people who work with the elementals here who are very, very powerful in that realm. So when you're going into the elemental realms, and when you're taken into the elemental realms, their play in nature becomes very, very apparent. So yeah, what I see when you're saying about Pam, what I'm really entering into there when you're saying it is an understanding of the elemental realms, which again is a vast subject, and it's something that, from my point of view, I go back to my Celtic roots for the elemental understandings. My mum was very passionate about the Celtic elementals. So yes, again, almost a whole realm of understanding there, Jeff. You know that the elementals are a fundamental part of what we're involved with here. So again, you know, a big subject, but yes, I do understand where you're coming from there, definitely.
In Glastonbury, they've got the elemental egg, isn't it? It takes you into the that realm, isn't it?
Wow. Wow. Well, Jeff, I do Agnihotra, which is sunset and sunrise fire ceremonies at the Eggstone. So the Eggstone is halfway up the tour. And if the Glastonbury is one of the analogies of Glastonbury is it's all about pressure and release. You know, the Druids came here 10,000 years ago because it's the glass isle, the place of the dead. This was a really powerful spiritual place way before Christianity. And the Eggstone is a big calcified stone that was probably brought from the inner realm to the outside. Really significantly, that stone should never be on the outside of that tour. That stone is from the inner realm. You know, so it was either brought through, you know, dug out, brought through, or it was relatively on the surface and brought out into the light as a representation of the underworld. That's what that stone is. So for me to go and do fire ceremonies there and respecting our ancestors there, I had an incredible experience one sunrise where I lit my fire and I saw a group of people come right at the foot of the tour and sit round and make a fire and sit. And I was thinking, God, you know, I've never seen people do that in Glastonbury before. And I went into my meditation and I came out, went down, I could find no trace of them. It was a pure vision, you know, and I mean, this is a visionary place. We do have those experiences if we're lucky. And the Eggstone is vitally important in this. You know, it's something that is still hidden. People don't really go there too much because, as I say, it's halfway, but is a magnificent thing, you know. So yeah, come try and find it.
Moving down to the Chalice Wells.
One Jeffrey is enough, but we can't have two.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We've got the red well and the white well. I mean, how important is it to have those two wells there that got different minerals? I suppose you would have to say is supplements. Basically, one's 20 meters away from the other one, isn't it? I mean, how could two aqua streams have two different mineral contents?
What you could be dealing with there, it's very difficult because you can only speculate. What we could be dealing with there is two vast artesian wells stretching in two different directions right across the whole of the Somerset levels, meeting within a few feet of each other but not combining. So geographically, that is utterly and entirely unique. That may not take place anywhere else, anywhere. So again, that's why the Druids who doused this place, who understood it in the way that they understood it, recognized its uniqueness, recognized what an incredible thing that is, and it brings its power. You know, the ley lines don't just cross here once. One of the powerful things about this place is the ley lines cross here 4 times and formulate almost a perfect helix. You know, the Druids utterly understood this. They doused it within an inch of itself, recognized all of these properties being hugely significant in their spiritual understanding and in the formulation of huge vibration, huge spiritual connectivity, you know.
I mean, the word dragon seems to come up quite synonymous in the history of England and Wales. Would you say that the dragon energy relates to the ley lines, or are we actually talking about mythical inner world beings called dragons? And there's something to be said about how did that all sort of come out of nowhere, and how did that affect plant and plant medicine, and you know, the structure of having trees on sacred ley lines, or we call them sacred, but song lines out here in Australia, or ley lines. I mean, the effect of that energy running through like a meridian. I mean, are we just using the word dragon as a metaphor here for an energy that pulsates throughout the planet?
I think it's a metaphor and a reality. I think it is a metaphor, Jeff, but I think one of the things that I've suddenly, it sort of dawned on me almost as a great realization was that what the ley lines do is shift things very, very fast. You know, so it's instantaneous. The energy that's running on the ley lines is happening inexplicably quickly. It's running around the planet. You know, so what we think here is felt there. What we think here is felt with you, straight off. That's the thing. So what we're putting through there is vitally important. It's, you know, high energy. You know, we have to be very careful of this very sacred understanding. And, you know, the dragons, they were as real as you and I. You know, the dragons are a reality. You know, because if you think about the way the ley lines are, it's like a serpent, isn't it? You know, just the formation of those lines and the way they act here is of a serpent. It's of a flying serpent. So, you know, they are mythological and a reality, I would say.
And the word Pendragon was aptly used for, well, I suppose an image that they could put on their shields, no different to Manchester United with the Red Devil symbol, or the Hammers for West Ham, or, you know, just the symbology in it to show their power of your internal mojo.
Yeah, you know, Jeff, I think one of the sadnesses is that you know, people use things for different things, don't they? You know, people power trips and all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, you have to accept that human beings haven't necessarily always done the right thing with energy. We're trying to now, I think, is my take on it. You know, that yeah, all that imagery and symbology and stuff. It's like going back to the martial arts thing. People take that entirely the wrong way. You know, they use it for all the wrong reasons. They do the wrong things with it. They have the wrong mindset to it. But actually, deep in its psyche, it's something really pure, really profound, and really beneficial. Because if you use it the right way, you come through conflict to peace. You know, so whatever those guys were doing with their shields and their imagery, you know, in medieval times, well, they were strange days, Jeff. I'm pretty sure, you know, and they picked up on the myth and turned it into power. You know, the very thing that, you know, we want to be the reverse of. We want to take the imagery and turn it into love. You know, we want to turn it into peace and harmony. And the dragon energy and all that stuff is peaceful, loving energy, really. And the dragon lines are there for our benefit and our wisdom and our nurturing, you know.
And right. I think that's another story.
Well, you know, if you talk about myths, Jeff, you come to the right place.
Yeah, definitely.
This is. I mean, Jeffrey Ash's book, you know, King Arthur's Avalon. Man, what a masterpiece that is. Jeff still lives here. He's 97, still living at the foot of the Tor, and a great author. You know, he is just a wonder. You know, and what he wrote about our understanding of Joseph of Arimathea, of King Arthur, of everything about this place. He was just a masterpiece. Absolutely amazing. Jeffrey Ash.
Okay, I'll look him up.
Go and find Jeff's books, any one of them. They're all absolutely brilliant, and there are lots of them. Yeah, right.
Right, okay. Right. Well, we've really talked a lot about all sorts of things to do with nature and dragon lines and ley lines and song lines and your music and your story. It's been amazing. So for just touching base with you now and again and chit chatting, now I know what you're all about. The real deal.
Thank you, Andrew. That's really kind.
It's been our pleasure for you sharing all your wisdom. So, and I know people ask about connecting with you, but I know you're not a great Facebook fan.
But you can. Well, I'm very contactable on my Brakeman site. You know, I'm not sitting on it. You know, but I will always get back to people. So please contact me if you'd like to. I'm all ears. You know, and it'd be nice to. It would be nice to talk to a few people in Oz and elsewhere, and you know, and there's lots of nice photographs. You know, we took a lot of photographs of the tour during the lockdown. We passionately call it our magic mountain, and we photographed it pretty much every day. It was a wonderful project, actually. It was very, very special to relate to it on in such a personal way on such a regular basis. So there's lots of those photographs, and some of them, you know, most of them are pretty much all of them are Sammy's, and they are fabulous. So have a look at those.
Yeah, we will do.
Thanks.
Hey, here's our lady from South Australia talking about the frogs. So
they take over. They give themselves a voice.
Yeah, when we get the rain, it starts coming, Dave. But look, you know, you talked about 4-4. Well, 4-4-4 as a breath. 2 weeks ago, the frogs started, so I started counting them. You're like counting sheep, you know. So I counted them 1, 2, and the thing's breathing away. I counted 164 bloody croaks. I mean, these things just go on, don't they? Eh? What you got?
Yeah, I mean, we have the spawning time for the toads here is absolutely remarkable. I mean, it's like, you know, it is the frog chorus. I think that Paul McCartney did a song about it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well,
what I need to know is, do they eat all your slugs? I mean, they're one of our great slug reducers, the frogs.
No, don't really have slugs. I'll tell you.
I'm coming there.
No, I had a lady come last night. She wanted some. Sent me an email. There's a printer stuffed up, and asked if she could print it out. And said, "Yeah, rightio." So she came up a bit late at night, and then about half an hour later, she went outside, and bloody hell, first time ever, had this 1.5 2 meter bloody snake just out there by the mailbox. So it had different patterns on it, and of course, very rarely do I get snakes, you know. Very, very rarely. I mean, I've had a green snake and I've had a little black snake. I did have a brown snake years and years ago, but this is the first time I had this one. And at night, so we're talking about 8 o'clock at night, when you see snakes come out at night, because, I mean, they really need to have the heat during the day, you know. So I said, listen, mate, thank you very much. It's time for you to go across the other side of the road. And, of course, went through the grass and then out across the bloody drive, over across the road to the other side. And I thought, oh, hang on a second, I better ring up the neighbours and tell them there's a snake coming their way. So I got on the phone, and rang up Vicky, and I said, look at Vicky, yeah, there's a snake that's come onto your driveway, mate. She said, what is it? I said, got it, I don't know. But very rare, I mean, at night, you know. So, so obviously it's come out at night like kangaroos, and wants to get the heat coming off the pavement, off the drive, you know, off the bitumen, you know. But very rare. Yeah. So they're probably eating our toads as frogs and possums. Yeah.
I bet.
Anyway.
I picked up a bag of compost. I was putting it around some roses, and I was digging into this bag, putting putting the compost down like that, and I went to get the last lot of compost out, and there was an adder at the bottom of this this bag looking up at me going, one more.
And I suppose you were thinking of Rowan Atkinson then when he was doing Blackadder.
Yeah, I don't think he would have fared any better. I mean, I'm glad I didn't get bit. There's no fun getting bit by them. Yeah.
Well, he probably needed the Queen. Off with his head.
That was great. I loved those the Blackadder series was amazing. Very funny.
Yeah. All right. Pleasure. Been a pleasure to have you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you for what you do, man. It's great. It's a great thing. Brilliant.
Thank you, Andrena. It was bloody fantastic. Nice catch up with home at Glastonbury as well with the photos. Yeah.
Definitely. Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, come and see us when you're next here, Jeff.
Yeah. What do you call it? Teleport.
Yeah.
No passports then. All right.
All the best.